My name is Ken Hekman. Welcome to this course entitled 4 Essential Disciplines, a training guide for healthcare leaders worldwide. My colleague, Quinton Friesen, and I are leading you through 15 modules to help you improve your knowledge, skills, and attitudes as a healthcare leader. This is Module 10 of 15.
Leadership and management are clearly essential disciplines for healthcare leaders in every country, every culture, and every healthcare organization. But leadership and management are not enough by themselves to assure that healthcare organizations will remain in service to their communities. There are thousands of examples of hospitals that have closed because they could not sustain themselves economically. There are also examples of well-intentioned organizations that have tried to establish healthcare services in needy communities. Without adequate staff, equipment, supplies, or financial support to even open the doors.
In this module, we will begin focusing on the discipline of sustainability by examining what it means to have a sense of ownership or responsibility for delivering healthcare services in a community. In the next 2 modules, we will examine basic principles of financial management, pricing strategies, and auditing practices to maintain honesty and integrity.
Discussions about sustainability are essential because healthcare services are vital to every community. Frequently, they require collaboration between the public sector and the private sector to be sustainable, which means that healthcare leaders and managers need to be accountable for financial matters. In the example of failed healthcare organizations, sometimes the failure could be traced directly to the incompetence of the leaders and managers. In other cases, healthcare organizations could not be sustained because of changes in the market, lack of discipline in financial management, or for other reasons. Good leadership and management can reduce the risk of failure by understanding and applying the principles of sustainability that we will explore today and in the next 2 modules.
Our learning objectives in this module are that participants will recognize the importance of personal and corporate responsibility for achieving sustainability, that you will understand the stages of organizational development required to achieve sustainability, and that you will use market expectations to guide sustainability strategies. Let's begin by considering what it means to take a sense of psychological responsibility for ownership. In the book, When Charity Destroys Dignity, author Glenn Schwartz tells a true story about what happened in a village in Latin America after a group from North America came to build a school building. The well-meaning group brought their own supplies and worked diligently to construct a simple shelter in 1 week. At the end of the week, they celebrated with the villagers by giving them the building. A year later, the North Americans received a message from the leader of the village which said, "The roof on your building is leaking. Please come and fix it." Had the ownership of the school really been transferred to the villagers? Their response seemed to indicate a sense of dependency rather than ownership. They may have taken possession of the property, but they did not feel a sense of psychological ownership or a sense of personal responsibility for the gift.
A dependency mindset undermines sustainability. For healthcare organizations to remain in service, leaders and managers need to move from a dependency mindset to a psychological ownership. This means moving from a focus on what others should do for you to focusing on what you can do for yourself. Moving from abandoning responsibility and missing opportunities to taking personal responsibility for resources and opportunities. Moving from taking the easy, comfortable, low-risk approach to being courageous and taking a certain degree of calculated risk. Moving from blaming others to empowering yourself and inspiring others to rally together while taking personal responsibility for solving problems.
Leaders need to model a sense of psychological ownership. Organizations take on the personality of its leaders to some degree, so leaders who model dependency may be leading their healthcare organizations to their self-destruction. On the other hand, leaders who value the importance of sustained healthcare services to the community will do all they can to build a sense of personal responsibility at every level in the organization, with every employee, and within the community. Personal responsibility nourishes corporate responsibility, and it is up to the leaders and managers to model the behavior, attitudes, and values that will sustain the hospital, clinic, or healthcare organization. Psychological ownership is an important foundation for sustainability, but for a healthcare organization to remain in service for the long term, leaders need to understand the 3 stages of development. Every organization begins from a state of dependency in which it relies on the transfer of funds from outside sources like governments, private foundations, or banks. Over time, they move to self-sustainability by earning fees for products and services that add value to people's lives. If this stage is done successfully for a long enough period of time, the organization moves to the 3rd stage, independence. A completely independent organization may be able to use interest income from reserves to support operational expenses. Sustainability is like growing up. Children begin life fully dependent on others. As they grow, they gain skills to sustain themselves, serve others, add value to their lives, and build reserves. If the adult stage is done well, people can provide for themselves in their old age, reducing their dependence on others.
Let's take a closer look at each of the stages and apply them to healthcare organizations in resource-poor settings. Most organizations start out dependent on initial funding from an agency outside themselves. Hospitals may begin with donations, grants, bank loans, or any combination of external sources. It takes a good deal of capital to build the facilities, acquire equipment, and support the initial stages of operation. Dependency is natural at the beginning, and startup organizations are very vulnerable in their dependency. If donors were to lose interest, or if banks were to call in their loans, the organization could fail before it gets off the ground. Organizations that advance to the 2nd stage are providing services that are valuable to patients and their families. By restoring children to good health, hospitals restore hope to their parents. By restoring adults to good health, hospitals enable workers to return to their fields, factories, shops, and offices so that they can earn a living and provide for their families. Good health offers both personal and economic benefits to individuals, to families, and to communities. Healthcare organizations that quantify the value of those economic benefits and use the information to plan services that cost less than the economic benefits it provides are well on their way to becoming self-sustaining. When they provide services that add value to people's lives, what we call value-added services, at costs that are lower than the economic benefit, they can remain in business and grow. In Latin America, I heard a simple way to estimate the economic benefit of medical services. I was told the value of a doctor's visit is worth about 1 day's wage. A surgical procedure is valued at 1 month's wage. While this may be a gross simplification, it points to the concept that the value of medical services can be described in terms that patients understand.
In most cases, healthcare organizations experience support from multiple sources in all 3 stages. The independence of stage 3 might be enviable, but it is rare. Those in stage 2 represent the most realistic hope for long-term financial stability and sustainability. Healthcare organizations should first focus their energy and attention on doing all they can to build self-sustainability so they can reduce their dependence on outside sources and philanthropy. Healthcare organizations need to respond to the needs of their communities, so understanding what the community is expecting of the organization can lead to sound strategies to build sustainability. It would be ridiculous to build a high-cost, Western-style hospital in a poor community and expect it to sustain itself. Hospitals and clinics need to reflect the economic realities in the community to maintain a balance that can lead to sustainability.
Think of a healthy community like a three-legged stool. Communities are interdependent on three social institutions: education, business, and healthcare services. All three institutions are necessary for the community to survive and thrive. Schools need to teach people to be productive members in the community. Businesses employ those people and create value-added products and services that enrich people's lives. Healthcare organizations keep children healthy enough to learn and adults healthy enough to work, completing the circle of interdependence.
So healthcare organizations can find a path to sustainability by clearly understanding what the market is asking of it. The size, scope of services, rate of growth, and financial strength should all reflect the realities of the community. Healthcare leaders and managers need to be constant students of community dynamics and trends with questions like these. How rapidly is the population growing? How are migration patterns going to impact the size of the healthcare organization? How will our organization be shaped by loyalties? If people currently expect to receive care in the major cities where they shop for other items, how will they form new loyalties to local services? If traditional healers have played a significant role in healthcare delivery, how will people receive so-called modern medicine? How will economic changes in the community affect our ability to sustain the healthcare organization and cause it to grow? Western-style medical technology and education may be highly respected around the world, but which components of it are appropriate for this community?
Now, let's take a look at some common questions about owning. Ken, our culture has been dependent on the generosity of others for generations. How can we change that?
Changing a culture is not an easy task. It often begins with a single person who has a vision for a better way of living. When one person demonstrates how to improve their life by adding value to other people's lives, they can inspire others and cast a vision for a more sustainable community. It takes enormous courage to think and act in ways that may seem countercultural. But think about the examples of great leaders like Nelson Mandela. His vision for a healthier culture prevailed through decades of hardship. I would like to believe there are champions with his heart in every community, ready to cast a vision for a better life.
Why do government hospitals need to be concerned about sustainability?
Government hospitals are dependent on government funds to stay in service. If those funding sources are threatened by changes in leadership, major economic downturns, or political dynamics on a global scale, the hospitals could close, leaving communities without vital healthcare services. Leaders of government hospitals need to be just as responsible as leaders of private hospitals to assure the steady flow of essential healthcare services. Sustainability can be a difficult subject to discuss. As we have seen in this module, it has its roots in basic human values. Sustainability is not only about financial discipline and economics. It begins with a sense of personal responsibility, which must be deeply felt and modeled by healthcare leaders and managers. To bring the concepts of ownership forward, let's examine this brief case study. Your clinic was initially built with donations from other countries, but the facilities are getting too small and are in need of repair. What steps can you take to assure the future of the clinic? Which of those steps require changes in thinking and which require changes in processes? This concludes Module 10 of 15. Thank you for participating.